I'm sure you have heard that the tailor Hugo Boss was responsible for the SS uniform. And in this video we are going to find out if this is true. Welcome to Caseback Watches, my name is Tim, and in this video I'd like to speak about Hugo Boss. The Hugo Boss story and the question who invented the SS uniform. His full name was Hugo Ferdinand Boss, and he was born 1885 in Germany and was born into, let's say, a lower middle class family. His family had a little shop for underwear, undergarments and some bedwear, so not very glamorous at that state of time. And as a young man, Hugo Boss was drafted into the military, and after World War I, which he survived, he founded his own small tailor shop for undergarments and dress shirts, undergarments, bedwear, so again, not very glamorous. And we have to see back then the economic situation in Germany was very difficult. They saw then the hyperinflation, which erased savings, loans, perspectives, everything. So very difficult situation for Hugo Boss. And then he had the idea, if the people don't have money to buy the nice suit, and we can assume that he wanted to tailor nice suits, that he wanted to sell finer garments for gentlemen, but it wasn't possible in this situation, and so he decided if the people don't have money for the fine suit, they have to buy workwear. Everybody has to work, and you can spare the Sunday suit, but you cannot spare gloves and tight pants for your job. And so in 1924 he founded a workshop for workwear. And Hugo Boss had family back then, and so as a young entrepreneur he scanned Germany and the political spectrum in Germany for the party who could lead the country to prosperity again. And he saw the future in the Nazi party, in the NSDAP, and he joined the party in 1931. And so we can assume that this move should locate him closer to the fire, closer to the fireplace. And at the same time, the commander of the SS, at a, let's say, armed wing of the Nazi party, was in need of a uniform. And Heinrich Himmler wanted a very distinctive uniform. He wanted to make clear the difference between a normal soldier and his so-called elite force. He called his SS men warriors. And so he was in need of a person who could design this uniform. And it was not Hugo Boss. This is the surprising fact, testified and everything. It was not Hugo Boss. In fact, it was a today fairly unknown painter. It was the painter Karl Diebitsch. And Karl Diebitsch, I had to look up this name because I'd never heard of him. And Karl Diebitsch was a representative of the so-called German art in National Socialism. And this was a movement of artists against expressionism, against any form of avant-garde, against any form of abstract art. And so a movement against anything beyond painting the reality one-to-one. And to demonstrate this difference here, I've picked two paintings. The first one here is Battle in Warsaw by Eber. And there you see soldiers in the first theater of World War II in Poland. And we see this today as a very naive form of, let's say, battle porn or war porn. But back then it demonstrated exactly the direction the movement wanted to go. And the second painting represented the enemy, represented expressionism. This is Russian ballet by August Macke, and you can see with all those forms and those colors that Macke wanted to impress something beyond reality. And Karl Diebitsch was highly inspired by military history, by Prussian military history, and the role model for the SS uniform Karl Diebitsch found in the uniform of a very famous regiment back then, and this was the 2nd Light Hussar Regiment, Queen of Prussia. So we're talking about cavalry. We're talking about cavalry, and this regiment fought between 1744 and 1914, 8 wars. And the regiment was famous for the black uniform together with the skull. And here you see it, cavalry unit. You see the key elements, the black color, the skull, the excessive amount of medals to show that this is an elite force. They sported the skull as some sort of insignia with a very clear meaning, and the meaning was we don't take any prisoners and we don't go into captivity alive. And this sort of spirit wanted Heinrich Himmler for the SS. And now we have to understand the step between the design of the uniform and the manufacturing process. And this step is very common in the garment industry. You have the design, and the designer together with skilled tailors and manufacturers let's say, translate the design into specifications. And the specifications are fixated or recorded in some type of manual. and then the designer hands the manual to the manufacturer and they follow the manual, and then they produce the garment. And this was exactly the case with the SS uniform. The design was ready, and then the SS looked for a loyal manufacturer, member of the party, who could produce this uniform, and then they scanned their party and they found Hugo Boss. And then, in fact, Hugo Boss started to produce the SS uniform together with other manufacturers. At its peak, the Boss company had 300 employees, so it was not exactly a small company, but it was not big enough to fulfill all assignments of the SS. And so Hugo Boss was some sort of link in the chain between the draft and the SS uniform. And by the way, you can find this method even today. If you are in the German army and you want your uniform hand-tailored or bespoke, then your tailor can download, in fact, or can order the specifications for the garment, and then he can produce the garment. And I'm pretty sure this is valid for other countries as well. And now World War II is over. Back then, Germany saw a denazification, and this was the attempt of the Allies to get rid of war criminals and, let's say, very convinced members of the Nazi party, of the Nazi movement. And their classification for Hugo Boss was minor case. But they convicted him to a fee of 25,000 Reichsmark, which was a huge fortune back then, but not for producing the uniform. They were realistic, they saw war economy, so every company has to do something for the war, or had to do something for the war. No, they convicted him for the use of forced labor, forced workers. And this was clearly seen back then as a crime against humanity, and is seen today as well as a crime against humanity. And so this was the case for Hugo Boss. And after paying this fee, he was a free man. He died in 1948 and passed the company to his son. And the son was the first boss who could produce suits then, finer suits. And he laid the foundation of the company today is known for its suits. And this was the real Hugo Boss story, the true Hugo Boss story. And the question now, can we learn something from it? I'm not so sure, because, I mean, if you want to ask yourself what would I have done in this situation, you can do this. But you see, of course, the history with our knowledge from today. And so I think we are very different people. If you compare me from a 43-year-old individual back then in Germany, makes no sense to be frank. But it's a good example how real history can turn into something dramatic, in a cinematic way, dramatic. The evil designer creates something dark for a dark force, this kind of story. And my personal opinion is you don't have to exaggerate such stories, because the reality is clear enough about certain topics. If you want to see more videos like this, then please hit the subscribe button, because I've planned some further episodes here, and about fashion, about history, about wristwatches, ladies and gentlemen. I'm wearing the Dubi & Schaldenbrand Diplomatic, still deep in love with the piece. And now let me thank you very much for your attention, and maybe until next time.